Obina Nwosu watched the golden liquid spread across his penthouse floor like spilled fortune, which, he realized with cold dread, was exactly what it represented. His hands trembled as he stared at the financial reports scattered across his glass desk. Red numbers. Everywhere, red numbers. This cannot be happening, he whispered, though the empty penthouse offered no comfort. Outside his floor-to-ceiling windows, Lagos sprawled beneath him, a glittering maze of ambition and survival. He had always been above it all, untouchable in his tower of steel and glass. Not anymore. 3 months earlier, Obina Nwosu had been a god among men. At 32, he owned half of Victoria Island's skyline. His cars, a fleet of luxury vehicles, turned heads on every street. Models clung to his arms at galas. Business magazines called him the golden boy of Lagos. He'd built his real estate empire from a modest inheritance, multiplying millions into billions through aggressive deals and ruthless negotiations. Love? He laughed at the concept over cognac with his friends at the yacht club. Love is what poor people use to console themselves, he'd said, drawing chuckles from men who measured worth in zeros and commas. I'll never be foolish enough to need anyone. Pride, they say, comes before a fall. And Obina's fall was spectacular. The property market collapsed like a house of cards. A series of bad investments in a tech startup drained his reserves. Banks that once begged for his business now called in loans. Partners vanished. The golden cars were repossessed one by one. His towers, those monuments to his greatness, stood half empty, bleeding money with every passing day. Within weeks, Obina Nwosu went from god to mortal. He sat in his lawyer's office, surrounded by mahogany and the stale smell of old money, listening to words that felt like bullets. Bankruptcy, liquidation, foreclosure. There is one option, his lawyer said carefully, sliding a folder across the desk. Chief Odumeje. Obina's jaw clenched. Chief Odumeje was old money, the kind that had roots deeper than Lagos itself. Oil, shipping, manufacturing, the kind of man who could make or break empires with a phone call. He is willing to invest, willing to save everything. Your towers, your name, everything. What does he want? He asked, though he knew nothing came free in Lagos. The lawyer hesitated. He wants you to marry his daughter. Silence filled the room like smoke. Adarze, his only child. Obina had heard of her. Everyone had. The quiet one, people called her, though usually in less kind terms. At social events, she stood in corners while others danced. She wore simple clothes when fashion demanded extravagance. The society women whispered that she was plain, awkward, unsuitable for Lagos's glittering stage. This is insane, Obina said, his voice hollow. This is survival, his lawyer replied. The wedding was small, transactional. Adaize wore white, but her eyes held no dreams. Obina wore Armani, but felt like he was wearing chains. They spoke vows that meant nothing, witnessed by Chief Odumeje's satisfied smile and a handful of confused guests who sensed something was wrong but dared not ask. That night, in the mansion Chief Odumeje had given them as a wedding gift, Obina and Adaze stood in separate rooms, strangers bound by contracts rather than love. This is temporary, Obina told himself, staring at his reflection. A business arrangement, nothing more. But life has a way of disrupting even the most carefully constructed plans. The first crack in Obina's armor came 3 weeks into the marriage. He'd been working late, drowning in spreadsheets, trying to understand the mess his company had become. Frustration mounted until he slammed his laptop shut and stalked to the kitchen for something, anything to calm his nerves. He found Adaize there, reading a thick book at the kitchen island, a cup of tea steaming beside her. She looked up, startled. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you." "You are not," he replied curtly, then paused. "What are you reading?" She showed him the cover. An economics textbook. Advanced financial theory. His eyebrows rose. "Light reading?" A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "I find it calming." "You find economics calming?" "I find understanding things calming." She met his eyes for the first time since the wedding. Would you like some tea? You look stressed. He meant to refuse, meant to walk away. But something in her voice, gentle without being weak, offering without demanding, made him nod. They sat in unexpected silence, and then she asked, "May I see your portfolio